Hello students. Now I'll be dealing with the fourth part of second unit that is in continuation with the general characteristics of microorganisms. In the previous class we discussed about the general characteristics of protozoa, algae and virus. Now we'll discuss about the general characteristics of fungi in general, with irrespective of the types of fungi. In general, the general characteristics of fungi are like this. In the singular form, we can call fungi as a fungus. In plural form, it is a fungi. Fungi are the kingdom of usually the multicellular eukaryotic organisms that are heterotrophs and have an important role in nutrient cycling in an ecosystem. Heterotrophs means they cannot make their own food, they are dependent on the other only. The plant body is called mycelium with the exception of few, in that the yeast is the one which doesn't have the mycelium. Mycelium is made up of filamentous structure called hyphae. The hyphae may be septate or it may be aseptate. If we see the cell wall, it is generally made up of fungal cellulose or it is made up of chitin, nitrogen containing polysaccharide. Fungi are eukaryotic and their cells have two nuclei and other membrane bound cell organelles like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, and Golgi bodies. The reserve food material in fungi is a glycogen. The mycelium of parasitic species usually grows intracellularly but produces intracellular haustoria. They reproduce vegetatively and asexually, and also they reproduce by sexual method. Vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation and budding. Asexual reproduction is very common in fungi, during which they produce sporangia and spores, either endogenous or by exogenous. Sexual reproduction is very common in lower fungi, that is in critids. Now we'll just move on to the types of fungi, that is specially which involved in the spoilage of the food. There are two types, mainly the molds and yeast, which involved in the spoilage of food. Molds, the term mold, it is common one up common one applied to certain multicellular filamentous fungi whose growth on foods usually is readily recognized by its fuzzy or by its cottony appearance. The main part of growth commonly appears white but may be colored or dark, or sometimes it is smoky. Now we'll discuss about the general characteristics of molds. Under general characteristics, we'll be discussing about morphological characteristics, cultural characteristics, and physiological characteristics. Okay, morphological characteristics means it is the form and structure of the molds determined by the microscopic examination. Here we can see the structure of molds. Here the molds, they consist of mass of filamentous called hyphae, and mass of these are called as hyphae. The single is called as a hypha or hyphum, and in group or in mass it is called as a hyphae, and that is called as mycelium. The hyphae may be classified as vegetative, that is a growing part, or a fertile, that is production or by reproduction part. The hyphae of most are clear, but some are dark or they are smoky. These are the hyphae. This is the structure of hyphae. This one. The structure of hyphae. Some are very clear and some are dark and some are very smoky in appearance. By the microscopic examination, genera of molds can be identified by the characteristics seen, like molds are divided into septate, that is like this, the hyphum that is divided into septate and aseptate. Septate means they have the cross walls, and in each septum there is a cell, whereas aseptate they doesn't have any cross walls. Okay. Next, the about reproduction of the molds, they chiefly reproduce by asexual spores. The molds which form sexual spores, they are termed as perfect. The fungi imperfecti, that is a septate. The septate, these are the fungi imperfecti. They have only asexual spores. The non-septate perfect molds are oocytes. Non-septate perfect molds. Non-septate hyphae, they are called as a perfect molds. They are oocytes and zygomycetes, whereas septate perfect molds, they are the ascomycetes and the bestomycetes. About the cultural characteristics of molds, some molds look velvety on the upper surface, some look dry and powdery, and some are wet, and some are gelatinous in nature or slimy like. A few can grow at height. About the physiological characteristics, the molds, the optimum temperature is room temperature, but some of the molds, they grow in the refrigeration temperature also, and some of the molds, they grow at high temperature also. Both the moisture, even very less moisture is required for the growth of the molds. For example, the cereals, they have a very less moisture content, hardly about 13%. Even a little moisture is added to that, the molds will grow. And the molds are aerobic in nature, so they require oxygen for their growth. So these are the general characteristics of molds. Now we'll move on to the yeast. Yeast refers to those fungi which are generally not filamentous but unicellular and ovoid or spheroid, and which reproduce by budding or it reproduce by fission. The general characteristics of yeast are also discussed under morphological characteristics, cultural characteristics, and the physiological characteristics. About morphological characteristics, we can see the form and structure of the yeast. The form of yeast may be spherical to ovoid. They are spherical in nature, they are ovoid in nature. Means their structure is spherical, ovoid, even lemon shaped, pear shaped. They are cylindrical, and even they are triangular in shape, and some are even elongated onto false or true mycelium. They also differ in sizes also. The visible part of the structure are the cell wall. Here we can see the cell of a yeast. The visible part is the cell wall, cytoplasma, water vacuoles, fat globules, and the granules which may metachromatic, albuminous, or starchy. If you see the reproduction of the yeast, most of the yeast they reproduce asexually by multilateral or polar budding, a process in which some of the protoplasma here, some of the protoplasma will bulges out the cell wall. The bulge growth is size grow in size, means it grows in the more size, and finally walls of as a new yeast. It looked like a new yeast. In some yeast, notably some of the film yeast, they appears to grow from a tube-like projections from the cell, Replicated nuclear material is divided between mother and the daughter cell. A few species of yeast, they reproduce by fission, and they reproduce into multiple form. About the cultural characteristics of the yeast, the appearance or growth is important when it causes colored spots on the foods. Most of the yeast colonies are moist, and some of the yeast are slimy. Most colonies are whitish, but some are cream colored or pink. Some colonies change little with the age, but others become dry and wrinkled. Yeasts are oxidative, and also they are fermentative, and sometimes they are both oxidative and fermentative. The oxidative yeast may grow as a film, pellicle, or scum on the surface of liquid, and then are termed film yeast. Fermentative yeasts usually grow through the liquid, and they produce the carbon dioxide. About the physiological characteristics of the yeast, most common yeast they grow best with a plentiful supply of available moisture. On the basis of water activity, yeast may be classified as ordinary if they do not grow in high concentration of solutes, in low water activity, and as a osmophilic if they do. The range of temperature for the yeast is about optimum temperature, if we can say, that is 25 to 30 degrees centigrades, and even in the maximum temperature like about 35 to 47 degree centigrade. The optimum pH for the yeast to grow is 4 to 4.5. In general, sugars are the best source of energy for the yeast. Nitrogenous waste utilized vary from simple compounds such as ammonia and urea to amino acids and polypeptides. Yeast may change in their physiological characteristics, especially the true or ascospore forming yeasts, which have a sexual method of reproduction, and these yeast can be bred for certain characteristics or may mutate to few forms. Most yeasts can be adapted conditions which previously would not support the good growth. And about the beneficial effects of fungi, if we see, fungi are used as a food. One example for that is a mushroom. Of course, mushroom also comes under the fungi only. Fungi is used as a source of medicine. Best example is penicillium is the one which is used as a source of medicine. It is used in the food industry, because in bakery industry it is used. Yeast is the one which is used in the bakery industry for the fermentation of the dough. And there are harmful effects of fungi are also there. It causes the fungal human diseases. It causes the plant fungal diseases, and spoilage of food also. uh, it spoils the food. To summarize this, the fungi, these are the kingdom of usually the multicellular eukaryotic organisms, and there are many types of fungi, mainly the uh, fungi which involves in the spoilage of food are molds and yeast. Fungi has both beneficial and harmful effects, and these are the references which I have used. Thank you.